Hi, Savvy Sales community. Today we're going to talk about how being audacious in selling is developed. And I've got a personal story to share with you. Don't miss it right after this. I'm Harrington, the Savvy Sales Lady, your personal YouTube sales coach, helping you to become sales savvy so you can experience prosperity and so can your clients. So today we're going to talk about how to develop audacious selling, right? But I have a personal story for you. As a kid, I had an obsession with Doc Severinsen. Yeah, Doc Severinsen from the Tonight Show, Johnny Carson. Doc Severinsen was a trumpeter, and he was also the band director for the stage band of Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. Back in my day, we called it a stage band. Every once in a while, my parents would let me stay up late and watch Doc Severinsen play. He made it look so easy. So in the 6th grade, I started to play trumpet. Well, you can't exactly say I was playing. I had the trumpet for 2 weeks and couldn't even blow a note. All I blew out was forced spit. The band director of the Catholic Civic Band I was in wouldn't give up on me, even though I was a girl. You see, back in the day, there were no girl trumpet players. I was one of the very few girl trumpet players in my city. That was my first audacious decision. You may be thinking, well, that's not very audacious. But you see, I was a very, very shy child. Matter of fact, the shyness carried way into my adulthood. So my trumpet skills improved. And my band director recommended that I start taking private trumpet lessons. The private trumpet instructor was world renowned. Now at that time, I was a kid. I didn't really realize how well known he was, and frankly, I didn't realize it until I became an adult. This trumpet master required that in order to become his student, you had to audition to be his student. I'd never auditioned before. I had no idea what that meant. I was in 8th grade at the time, so I took my practice books with me that I had been using from my band director, and I went to the audition. When the trumpet master saw the books that I had been using to practice with, he blurted out laughter. I guess he didn't think playing out of the songbooks, Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass, was serious study material for an upcoming trumpet player. I was so embarrassed because I knew I was completely out of my element and unworthy to be his student, so I thought. The trumpet master then pulled out a series of trumpet technique books. I still have a couple of them with me. This is the Arbin's book. I actually rebought this one because my other one was tatters. Here is what he asked me to play. A series of scales which I had never ever done in my life. In my young life, I might add. The Arbin's Complete Conservatory for Trumpets, I didn't even know existed. So here sits this shy girl looking at an intimidating technique book, and he asks me to play the scale. To say I was shaking is an understatement. I think I was shaking so much I was having trouble holding the trumpet. After I played that scale, Mr. Dale gruffly pointed to another one and said, "Now play this." So I played it, and so on went the audition. At one point, I stumbled really bad over a passage. Mr. Dale whipped out his trumpet, and he played the passage so easily, so effortlessly, so beautifully. I was stunned. This was the very first time I had heard a professional trumpet player live. He said to me, "That's the way it should be played." I begged him to play more. I wanted to hear what it was supposed to sound like, not my poor attempt of not only reading music, but interpreting music. Here I was, a 13-year-old shy girl in the 8th grade who had no idea who this trumpet master by the name of Delbert Dale was and how this man could play so incredibly. We didn't have internet back in the late 60s, early 70s, so I could look him up. And he never talked about himself. I made the cut. I became his student. But then he told me later, much later, that he took me as a challenge because he had never taught a girl trumpet player before. Needless to say, Delbert Dale was an incredible influence on me. My first year with him as a student, he signed me up for city competition. I had no idea what city competition was. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But all of his students went to competition, so I was signed up. You can imagine how this pressure was sitting on my shoulders given my shyness. Every Saturday, all of his students came into his studio to exclusively practice on their music piece for the city competition. We were all in separate rooms. Mr. Dale was in his office, and he would bark out orders. "Harrington, you're too sharp. White, you're too flat. Simon, that's not how you play that." And he would go into Simon's room and he would play the piece. Everyone would stop just to listen to him play, all the while hoping he would continue and play more. It was magical when he played. I can still hear it to this day, and I've never heard anyone play so beautifully like Delbert Dale played. His playing style was beautiful, easy. He could pinch off a high C without a slight struggle, and he had perfect pitch. Now, competition day is around the corner. Mr. Dale called us all into his office and told us one by one that if we were to remain his students, we needed to place first place. Second place, third place was not an option. Oh, the anxiety I felt. I couldn't even sleep that night. The day of the competition arrives. My mom takes me to the competition. The judge calls my name. I walk up to the stage, preparing to play. I hear the piano start with the accompaniment, and then I remember nothing after that. You see, I was so shy, I blocked it all out. I remember when I was walking up to the stage, it's like it wasn't even me. It was kind of like an out-of-body experience watching myself walk up that stage. I was so frightened. I heard the judge say, "Christine, you can get off the stage." Apparently, I had stood there for a while after I played my piece. So I asked my mom, how did I do? And she said, "Oh, you did well." Well, that was my mom, right? It took about 2 to 3 hours for all of the rest of the trumpet players to play and for our scores to be posted. The time came. The judge posted all of our points on the wall. I remember struggling, looking past people, trying to find my name, and then I saw my score. I began to cry. I missed first place by 1 point. I wasn't so agonized about second place as much as I was having to make that phone call to Delbert Dale and telling him I missed first place. I knew the consequences. You see, the thought never occurred to me how well I had actually done, missing first place by 1 point in my very first competition. I wasn't thinking about that. I was only thinking about, I'm not going to be Delbert Dale's student anymore. We got home and my mom handed me the phone receiver and said, you got to make the call. Oh, I was heartbroken. As I dialed the phone and I heard hello at the other end, my voice was shaking talking to Mr. Dale. And I told him I missed first place by 1 point. I was stumbling with my words and stuttering. Then he said to me, did you play your best, Christine? I could hear the disappointment in his voice. I stumbled with my words. I don't remember even playing, Mr. Dale. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, I just remember hearing the piano start to play, and I don't remember anything after that. He knew how much I struggled with being shy. He softly laughed to himself and he said, I'll see you on Monday. I couldn't believe it. He didn't drop me. That day, knowing that Mr. Dale was not going to drop me as a student, he was going to give me another chance, I decided to start being audaciously disciplined. I went on to study under him for 5 years, and I never missed first place after that, not even in state competition. You see, Mr. Dale didn't just teach me trumpet technique, he taught me the audacious discipline of practice. You see, playing trumpet isn't about playing music scores. It's about a daily discipline of playing the basics of technique, daily drills of playing scales, developing your embouchure, increasing your range, practicing the basics over and over and over again. This audacious discipline Mr. Dale taught me gave me my foundation to be successful in selling. What have you heard me say over and over and over again? Practice, 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 right? I would never pick up a trumpet and play cold at the beginning of a performance in an orchestra. There's a warm-up discipline first. You've heard it if you've attended any kind of symphony, where they'll warm up in the beginning. What you don't see is all the warm-up they do before they get out onto the stage. As a result, I never pick up a phone and make a cold call unless I do my basic practices first. How many times have you heard me talk about that? Don't pick up your phone cold and make a cold call. I always do, and I always teach. Do a cold call warm-up first. How do you do that? You practice in your voice memos on your iPhone or whatever smartphone that you have. Record your cold call so you can play it back and hear what you're going to sound like to the prospect. I'll practice 25 times before I actually make a cold call. Now, you're probably thinking, it's just a phone call, Christine, no big deal. It's not just a phone call to me. It's an opportunity to make an extraordinary connection with the person on the other end of the phone. That's how I see it. And that's why I'm good at cold calling. I take every business opportunity and every activity just as seriously as I would take warming up to play trumpet before performance in an orchestra. That, my friend, is how audacious discipline is developed. Do what others never do and soon you'll be audacious in selling too. If you struggle with being disciplined in your life or in selling, it's not too late. It just takes a decision. Decide. Being disciplined is your goal in 2018. Why wait until January? Start now. Get a head start. Give me a thumbs up if you are dedicating 2018 to become audaciously disciplined. And if you're not a part of the Savvy Sales Lady community, we are a channel for all salespeople. Hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so it'll alert you when my next video is updated. And don't forget to click below to get your Audaciously Disciplined in 2018 checklist. But remember this, sales is a journey. It's not a quick trip around the block. See you on the next video. Oh, and by the way, here are some of Delbert Dale's original manuscripts that I used as practice, that he hand wrote out, and I treasure these, really treasure these.